Hey everyone, welcome to the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate, brought to you by drroto.com. Get your daily prescription for fantasy sports. Derek, how are you? I'm sure you're excited to hear how I felt after my Steelers won, lost, but first and most importantly, the catch heard round the world. George Pickens' catch. I mean, it was beautiful, wasn't it?
So are you taking
stunning.
moral victories? Moral victories?
Moral victories. That's what I have to take these days. I'm taking a victory in the beauty of the catch, despite the fact that after the game, Tomlin already said, they're not going to make any switches at quarterback. I don't fully believe that. In my heart of hearts, I'm like, no, Kenny Pickett's going to start, and then it'll be okay. And until that happens, I'm going to have to grab onto these tiny victories and let that get me through the season as a Steelers fan.
I personally think it was better than the Odell Beckham Jr. catch way back when on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys once upon a time. So, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I damn near jumped out of my chair. I went, holy damn, he caught that. Like,
yeah,
it was that great.
Thank you for saying that, because there's been a lot of feedback on Twitter across the board of like, no, it's not better than Odell Beckham catcher. You're you're throwing shade to the OBJ catch because you're saying this one is better. I don't think it's throwing shade at all. I think what it does is, yes, this catch was better. I think it was definitively better, but also you're not discounting the fact that the OBJ catch was also good. You're just saying now in the SportsCenter top 10 of catches, this one is now ahead of that one. That's all I think it's saying. It's still an elite catch, but it's just better.
I don't think it's recency bias. I personally think that the degree of difficulty, the body angle, everything, I think it was better. Obviously they're both great. They're both masterpieces, but come on. Pickens, I think the guy is a stud in the making. Sam, I'm going to ask you, I don't want to say too much on the Steelers, but do you believe that Trubisky's going to make it another 3 games as the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh?
I mean, I hope not, but do I think that Tomlin will say, he is our quarterback until otherwise, and what otherwise would be until bye week, and then they make a switch. I desperately hope they make the switch sooner, but we do have a crazy difficult schedule ahead of us, so I could see them not wanting to pivot too hard to going to Kenny Pickett, but I think we all know that he's the answer. Had we not seen Pickett have a fantastic preseason and just show, poise under center the way that he did, I think that maybe we'd all be not cheering for him from the stands to get him on the field, but he had a fantastic preseason and he didn't have any of those, rookie quirks that you see as a QB coming in.
It's not as much the preseason, because the preseason's the preseason, and sure, you're seeing a lot of vanilla coverages, all that stuff. So, yes, he looked good. He did. So, all you can do is look good with the reps that you have, and he looked good. But it's more so with Mitchell Trubisky. It seems like that man is playing really tight. He's playing not to make mistakes. And when you're playing not to lose, you lose your job. It's really that simple. And I believe if they would have gone to Pickett, maybe he gives them a spark. Maybe he gives the offense a little something. Hell, your boy Pickens has already gone like, I'm open 90% of the time. That's a direct shot at not only the quarterback, but I also understand the offensive line is still having some things that they're working out. It's a work in progress there in Pittsburgh up front. But I thought they did a pretty good job against Myles Garrett for the most part. They kind of bottled him up, and Trubisky took another L. He's 1-2 as the starter, and I think that he's had 3 very winnable games, and they're 1-2 through the first 3. So I think it's going to be just a matter of time before we see Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time, and me, I could continue talking about the Steelers till the cows come home. But let's talk about plenty of other games we have coming up in week 3. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have any start sit questions, please throw them in the chat and we'll get to them as we see them pop up. I see Albert joining us in the chat. Good evening, Albert. And we also see Will Jenkins. What up,
Will?
Always good to see you, bud. Appreciate you. Will is always just so consistent. Love him. Albert,
I just started to wonder, do you send him calendar invites whenever we're going live? Because it seems like Will has already in the chat waiting for us to go live every single time.
I know, he's amazing. All right, let's talk about some of these matchups this week. One of the top ones on my list that I want to talk about, just because I feel like there is so much potential for fantasy goodness in this matchup. It's going to be so high scoring. Take the over. It's got to be the Bills-Dolphins matchup. I know the Bills defense and their secondary is a bit dinged up. Hopefully you can speak a little bit to that, Tate. I know that you love the defensive side of the ball, But I'm just thinking this is going to be so high scoring. And is it recency bias for me to have that feeling, knowing that Miami's week 1 was kind of lackluster and then last week was so insane with 6 touchdowns? I mean, am I crazy, or is this on par given the defensive situation for the Bills?
So if I remember correctly, it looks like they've lost Micah Hyde for the season. So you lose him. And I know that Trey White, he's missed the first 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like he potentially is maybe going, even if he plays, he's probably going to be limited, but I don't know if he's been officially ruled out again. But here's when it comes to the Miami Dolphins are going to be tested, right? Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. But Miami's offense, outside of that explosion that took place in the fourth quarter, have they really been that great? Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from Tua. He had a career day. 6 tutties. I get it. Awesome.
6 tutties, 469 yards.
Right.
38.9 fantasy points.
Came back. Right. No, it came back, from 3 scores down. I mad respect. And this Dolphins team is feisty. And certainly it seems like there's a bit of a culture change, which you like. But the Bills are a different story right now, Sam. They're a machine, and they look formidable on both sides of the football. We knew they were going to look good. I don't know if we thought they were going to look this good. I do think that the Dolphins present some matchup issues on the back end, though. So I get why you're thinking maybe a higher scoring game. Maybe both teams, getting, caution like the 24, 28 point threshold, getting another high scoring affair. But we're going to see if that was an outlier performance in the fourth quarter and that comeback win against the Ravens this back in week 2 for the Miami Dolphins offense. They certainly look great, but looked like there were some communication issues on the back end for the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe there are some without Micah Hyde available, but I just think the Bills are a better coached football team. No shot at the Ravens, but they kind of collapsed there in the fourth quarter. So I personally don't think they're going to be quite as lucky against a divisional opponent this upcoming Sunday. So I think the Dolphins' offensive onslaught is going to be slowed down just a little bit against the Bills.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if they're able to bottle them up, or if the affair just gets so high scoring that everyone just takes their foot off the brake and then it's just gas the whole game. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Cut the brakes.
Cut the brakes. Let's just see how many points we can get on the board. We'd love to see that. But I think when you're comparing the two quarterbacks, obviously Tua's week 1 was lackluster compared to last week, but then Josh Allen's had very consistent first 2 weeks. So 4 touchdowns last week, 317 yards. In week 1, he had 3 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. So still got to 4,
right.
But just shy of 300 yards with 297. So I think I'm wondering if 4 touchdowns is going to be the new norm for him, or if at least 1 rushing and at least 2 passing. Are we going to start seeing some, consistency out of Josh Allen, just because his game that he's putting out there is so insane? So I'm just wondering, are we now, or should fantasy managers recognize the new norm and expect 4 touchdowns every game from Josh Allen? Is that too crazy?
I think 3. I definitely think 3. I think 3. I like some sort of combination, whether it's, rushing or passing. I definitely think that the way that this offense is built and the way they're rolling right now, Sam, Josh Allen looks like he's a demigod of football.
Demigod of football. I love it.
For real. He looks fantastic. He looks every bit the part of a potential MVP. So I don't know what to expect from the Dolphins defense in this one. That's kind of the unknown here. They did look like they were getting blown out by the Baltimore Ravens, right? Through the first 3 quarters. Mm-hmm. So they did a nice job on a Patriots offense that's still figuring things out. But Josh Allen and the Bills offense is a completely different animal. And I'm interested to see how they are going to approach trying to slow down this Bills offensive attack. That's just been, they picked up where they left off last postseason. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup. I definitely think the Bills still score 30 plus. I just wonder if Tua is going to be able to keep up with Josh Allen.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. And this is going to be the game we get to see if he can and cannot do that. But I guess the question then is there a single player you're not starting in this matchup?
Oh, no, I'm okay. I just don't know who the hell to start at the Dolphins running back position. I think it was Raheem Mostert.
That's probably the most questionable spot I have for myself. I think there's other matchups for other backs that I have that I might prefer, just because I feel like the receivers are going to feast in this one.
Your Waddles, your Tyreek Hills, your Stephon Diggs. You're starting all those guys with confidence. And that, I still think that Tua is probably a top 12 option at quarterback this week. I'm not going to go top 10 yet, but top 12, I'm okay. I still think he's going to be able to keep them competitive. I just think the Bills run away with it in the second half.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of potential for garbage time for Tua. So for me, I think because I could see the Bills getting up early and then second half, Miami trying to make a comeback, I still think that, I don't think top 10 is crazy for Tua this week. Maybe not top 5, but I would definitely say top 10.
I don't know if I consider anything garbage time right now with the Dolphins. No, seriously, they probably got the 2 best deep threats in all, or best run after the catch, most explosive athletes after the catch, and can also do damage just getting over the top of you. So you can't. This past Sunday was proof. You can't count this version of the Miami Dolphins out. They've got too many big play threats on the outside to ever consider them fully out of the game.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, I'm just really grateful that I got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in as many leagues as I did. And I feel like they fell almost to you in a lot of respects, just given the way that a lot of drafts fell. So I'm just
Tua did to me. Tua did to me, but
yeah. Love it. Let's talk about another matchup. Let's talk about the Cardinals versus the Rams. A little bit of a grudge match. This is definitely no love lost between these two teams. But I'm also just excited to see that Stafford was finally able to get Allen Robinson involved this past week. He had 4 catches on 5 targets for 53 yards and a touchdown. So you love to see it. People that drafted him where they did are definitely happy to see that. But can we trust him going into this matchup? Do we feel like this is going to be one where either the Rams or the Cardinals get out early and then maybe it's just a Cooper Kupp day the entire rest of the day? Or can you trust starting Allen Robinson even in flex options?
I think if you probably invested a 4th, 5th rounder in Allen Robinson in most scenarios. So I think if you have him and you saw his involvement from last week, you got to feel a little bit encouraged, right?
Yeah.
So I'm personally starting Allen Robinson, and I'm not going to second guess myself. When we come to the likelihood of him having a breakout game, it kind of seems hard to predict. I know Van Jefferson, I believe, just got placed on IR today, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be out indefinitely. But I'm going to roll with him. I think that if you see the potential of both of these offenses, and really, I didn't see a whole lot of great things from the Rams defense against the Atlanta Falcons, who made that a game, by the way, over the weekend. And I think that this offense, too, for the Arizona Cardinals, outside of Kyler Murray being Kyler Murray, they still got a lot of things to figure out, right? Kyler had to go full Superman video game, run around, and make a bunch of plays for them to steal an overtime victory against the Raiders. So I think these are two teams that are still kind of figuring things out. I just trust the Rams to, lean on their core a little bit more than the Arizona Cardinals at this point. So yeah, I'm fine starting Allen Robinson. I got Cooper Kupp's must start.
One more on the Rams, and then let's talk a little bit about the Cardinals. But Cooper Kupp is on pace to have another record-setting season, like just out the gate. We already know he's probably going to beat last year's record, or just at least come close to it. He's unmatched. Is there any trade offer you would accept, dynasty or redraft, for Cooper Kupp right now? Is there anything, or is he just absolutely untradeable to you?
No one is untradeable. I will start that. And I almost want to quote like a Game of Thrones quote from Arya, is like, anyone can be killed. And anybody can be killed on your roster for the right price. Like, they can be had for the right price. So no one is untouchable for me anyway. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know why I had to go all dark, using, anyone can be killed, but it's true for me. Anybody can be off my roster at any point if somebody pays me the right price.
It got dark quick, but that's okay.
My bad. I was just thinking Game of Thrones. I don't know why, whatever.
It's totally up my alley. I think that's fine. No, I think for me, it would be really hard to imagine trading Cooper Kupp in any scenario unless the rest of my team was absolutely deplorable. And in Dynasty, you kind of have to know, is this a year that I'm going to be just weathering the storm, or am I going for the win? And if you know that you're weathering the storm and you need to rebuild, and he is your last piece, and you can get
sell Kupp,
you can get draft picks, it's a very specific scenario I can imagine trading him. but it's like the smallest type of scenario because he's just so fantastic. I would cry making that trade. It would, and I don't think that that's an exaggeration.
He could single-handedly help somebody that has a terrible dynasty team retool just from the assets you can get in return from selling on Cooper Kupp. So my cuppeth runneth over. I don't know why. Where was it? I didn't want to.
You've been watching a lot of the
puns. I don't know what's wrong with me. Let's go.
You've been watching that new Game of Thrones
House
show.
of Dragon.
House of Dragons. Yeah.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
I mean, the funny thing is like when you do the acronym version, it's Hot D. Anyway, I saw it online. It was
okay.
It was not me. I'm going all over the place. I apologize, Sam.
It's okay. We'll get back on the rails. Let's talk about the Cardinals a little bit. Just in terms of the receiving game, obviously, Marquise Brown getting into the sync of things hasn't been perfect. When you consider last week, Greg Dortch looked better than he did, which I wouldn't have guessed that.
I heard your voice there, but yes, I mean, look, Greg Dortch could play, he could ball, but I mean, I don't see him outproducing Marquise Hollywood Brown. I don't think anybody did heading into the year.
No. So how do you evaluate these two pass catchers going forward then? Obviously, until we get DeAndre Hopkins back.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be a lot of off script from Kyler Murray, which one thing we know about off script is it's hard to understand the flow of the offense or where the target share is going to go on a week-to-week basis if you're going to see Kyler having to extend plays, make plays outside the pocket. So for me, I believe that Marquise Hollywood Brown is probably still the best bet for probably leading the team in targets on a week-to-week basis. I think Greg Dortch, through 2 weeks, he's done enough, and he's seen enough action for me to feel confident he's going to have a role in this offense until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. So, I think that they're both kind of flex options to me, right?
Yeah, I can see that. And I do still see that Marquise Brown has more targets overall, total, than Greg Dortch does. So he is going to still be the number one guy. But until Hopkins comes back, it's almost like a 2A and a 2B when you consider these two receivers, at least how I would see them going forward. So if you're in a pinch and you're in a situation where someone's out and you need to flex someone, I would feel comfortable flexing Greg Dortch, just depending on your options available.
Another thing weird about this offense is we know that James Conner is questionable heading into this one. So, Conner is someone I was going to be able to rely on. And I know Kyler was likely going to be able to rely on, in particular without DeAndre Hopkins available. So, if they can't impose their will through a running attack with James Conner, and now Kyler Murray's with, let's just hypotheticals, if he's without Conner and of course without D-Hop, where's the offense going to come from if it's not just Kyler being Kyler? And how much does that beat down from last year's postseason sink into this game? That's all I'm asking. We don't know the answer to that, but we'll see if Kyler has an answer on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it would be a different scenario if there was absolutely no injuries and, you have both fully healthy rosters and you can fully have the grudge match game script going in. But there's so many other factors that I think that could upset that in terms of what you should be anticipating for an outcome of this game.
That offense got their tail whipped. They got spanked. So
they did.
We'll see if they have some adjustments because if they don't, it could be another ugly day and another ugly outing for Kyler and the Cardinals.
Definitely. All right. So we've talked about two games that I think that should potentially have some high scoring output for us. But let's talk about a game that I think, could go down as probably a really tough game for both senior quarterbacks. And that's the Packers versus the Buccaneers. Don't mean to say that about your Tom Brady. No disrespect at all. But he struggled a lot last week, and as did Aaron Rodgers, as we watched him just fall inward as he realized he has no receivers. You just watched his soul leave his body, but also be grateful for the two backs that he does have in Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think the offense is going to do nothing if not go through those two amazing players. And when you look at the Buccaneers, obviously this week they're without Mike Evans. He is suspended. You see that Leonard Fournette is questionable. I don't know if he's already been ruled out or not. What I'm seeing right now is that he's questionable. What is Tom Brady going to have to do in order to get this win? And do you see the Bucs getting the win over the Packers, or do you think that Rodgers can get an upset?
Well, the way I'm looking at it is I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is playing at a higher level than the Green Bay Packers. And I know that they did a pretty good job against, Justin Fields and the Bears offense that is a work in progress, to put it very kindly, for you Chicago fans that are listening in right now. I'm not trying to insult your quarterback, but it's been a rough start. But that being said, I just see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the way that they're able to apply pressure and, their secondary. I don't know if I see anybody in the Packers wide receiver room that scares me against this Tampa Bay secondary. Like, I think the Tampa Bay secondary is going to have a pretty good game against the Packers pass catchers. And look, I know that the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP. And, those two weapons out of the backfield, Sam, they're legit. They're
Legit.
But Tampa Bay has a pretty good set of linebackers. And I'm just imagining, if they're not going to be able to run the ball and they're going to force Rodgers in the 3rd and longs on a somewhat regular basis, I could see them being able to apply pressure to Rodgers and Rodgers not being able to find people on the outside on a consistent basis. And I guess you could try to make the argument on the flip side for Tom Brady, who's going to be looking like he's without Mike Evans. I know that, Russell Gage, Chris Godwin's already out as well. I know that, Russell Gage and Julio Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they're both, I believe, questionable for Sunday as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a makeshift job for Tom Brady. But who do I expect to be able to make it work with, I guess, clearance rack, type of ingredients on the offensive side? I trust Tom Brady more. So,
sure. No, he's someone that, I mean, you're looking at the depth chart right now for the Bucs, and it looks just like it's got chicken pox all over. There's red marks all over this roster. It's absolutely insane looking. So you have to read between the lines and like, okay, who could have a big game? Scotty Miller absolutely could have a big game because Tom Brady's gone to him in the past and he's had a lot of success with Scotty Miller. They just signed Cole Beasley. He could absolutely end up with a couple catches here and there. Rashad Bateman also has a questionable mark next to his name, though.
God.
I know. It's brutal. So I was going to pivot and say Jalen Darden could get a couple catches.
No.
Going further and further down the depth chart. Cameron Brate could absolutely have a fantastic game. I think that I completely agree with you. If I had to look at between two quarterbacks who can make any pass catcher work, it's Tom Brady. I think that it's unfortunate that Rodgers doesn't have that ability with his receivers the way that he sees them right now. Gosh, it was so brutal seeing poor Christian Watson mess up a play. I think it was last week. Did you see him run across and actually create a fumble? And you just watch Aaron just like lose his mind watching this like play unfold because the poor rookie's timing was so off.
The chemistry is definitely not there. For some, and this is why I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy, because you're not doing your rookie wide receiver any favors by like your body language clearly being disappointed in him. It's like, dude, you keep screwing this up, man. It's almost like he's verbally saying with his body, not verbally, he's non-verbally saying with his body, dude, you suck right now. Like, I mean, I hate that. I get it. It's like a parent that's being way too hard on his kid and having way too high of expectations. Like, give him a little bit of time, man. Damn.
Yes. But it's interesting though. Both quarterbacks had a lot of frustrations last week, Brady and Rodgers. And when you watch them, you could tell that Brady's frustration was not with his teammates. It was with a lot of the situations that he was put against and the misses and the different things they were doing against him to force him into difficult situations. So you could tell that game script wise, he was frustrated over what they had planned wasn't working versus Rodgers looking frustrated at the people around him. Like he's been sitting on a bus with the same people for too long and every little thing is annoying them. Can you stop breathing so loud on this bench? It's driving me nuts. Like he's literally annoyed by every receiver on his team, except for poor Randall Cobb, who is questionable too.
And that's what I'm saying is like, it's one thing to act like that when you're going up against the Bears, like, and Rodgers does kind of own the Bears. He's traditionally he's really had that team's number like in a big way, but that's not the same case against Brady. You're not going up against Justin Fields, who's still, working with pretty much nothing at wide receiver. No offense to any of those guys who are pros, but really a lot of guys that are lucky to be on an NFL roster, much less, earning starting reps and stuff like that. So, man, I believe in Brady more than I believe in Rodgers. And I mean, maybe that's the Bucs fan of me talking, but I like you said, I think that we've seen Brady do more with less throughout his entire NFL career than we have for Aaron Rodgers. Me
100%.
personally.
No, I think I completely agree with you. And we've also have a longer span of career to look at when we compare the two, because Brady's been doing it longer. So, going to the reps, going to the resume,
been a while.
More trust there. Still going to be a really rough day fantasy wise. I'm still starting AJ Dillon everywhere I have him, just because he could end up getting a couple passes here and there. And just there's a possibility for a couple goal line carries. So I still feel confident starting him. There's no scenario I would ever bench Aaron Jones. So you're still starting them. I think that the other questions too for the Bucs side of the ball is, you just got to check the inactives in the morning and see if you're going to be able to roll Leonard Fournette out there, because otherwise it's going to look a bit bleak.
Well, Leonard Fournette, Julio Jones, Russell Gage. I mean, a Rashad Bateman. I mean, holy criminy. Like that's a long list of game time decisions. So
it is.
Pay attention tomorrow.
Pay attention tomorrow, guys. All right, let's move on to our sleeper section of the podcast. Please go to sleeper.com/doc and you will get up to $100 matched on your first deposit when you get to play the sleeper over unders. Super, super fun. Tate has pulled a couple for us today, so let's go one by one. Your sleeper over under for Travis Kelsey. You're taking the over on his 0.5 receiving touchdowns possibility. I like this pick a lot for this matchup.
Yeah, I just think that Travis Kelsey had a bit of a slow week by his own lofty standards. And I honestly, I thought that hit from Derwin James, like where he's like body slammed him.
He was laughing about that on his podcast. It was so funny.
You have to. I mean,
you have to laugh.
Derwin's an all-pro caliber player. I mean, he's a stud. Like, and him and those two are going to have battles for the next couple of years, however long Travis Kelsey decides to play. But so I think that Kelsey, though, against a team and the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, has there been a more disappointing team in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season? They got shut out by Jacksonville. They got a tie. It's almost more insulting than a loss against the Houston Texans. Like, I just personally don't see the path to victory for Indy in this one. I think Kelsey and Mahomes are going to have their way offensively. So I think that Kelsey finds the end zone in week 3 at some point in the first half.
Oh, in the first half easily. I was going to say, if you could add on to this bet that the touchdown for Kelsey comes in the first half, I would take that as well, because I think that they're going to have immense success over the Colts. Let's go to the second one. You've got Rashad Bateman taking the over the 45.5 receiving yards against the Patriots. The Patriots look like a hollow ghost of themselves. They don't look like the Patriots as we're used to seeing. Obviously, everything is shifted around there, but they just don't look like they're in sync at all. I feel like the Ravens could absolutely have their way with the Patriots this season. I mean,
the Baltimore, you could argue if the Baltimore Ravens were able to put away the Miami Dolphins and, not give up a crazy fourth quarter from Tua and the rest of the gang, that the Baltimore Ravens arguably look like the best team in the National Football League through the first 2 weeks. Of course, what happened. They collapsed. They gave up a huge lead and whatever, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this Baltimore offense still looks pretty damn good. And we knew last week, because of the 2021 matchup, at least I thought that there was a formula that the Miami Dolphins kind of laid out. It's like when you play Madden, the video game, and you play one defense every single snap until your opponent figures out how to beat it. That's what they did to Lamar Jackson in 2021 by just showing cover zero blitz, and no one seemed to be able to figure it out, including Lamar Jackson. Yeah, that was not the case in week 2. Rashad Bateman for a 75-yard tutty. He had I think it was like a 40-yard plus tutty in week number 1 as well against the Jets. I just think he's got big play written all over him, but he's also kind of getting that volume with 5 or more targets in each of the first 2 weeks. Traditionally, Bill Belichick likes to take away your number 1 option in the passing game. To me, that's Mark Andrews. No offense to Rashad Bateman. I think it's 1A, 1B, but the 1A is definitely Andrews. So yeah. I think that it's going to be a nice day potentially for Bateman. I think we're going to see some cover 1 man. We're going to see some cover 0 as well to kind of try to confuse the protection schemes and really get up on those receivers and challenge Rashad Bateman again. I just think Bateman's going to win. And the way that Lamar's played through the first 2 weeks throwing the ball, he looks fantastic. I think that connection continues. And this yardage total feels like one that's very attainable for Rashad Bateman.
No, I agree. I think that's a really safe bet for him this week. And I definitely agree. I think that the Patriots are going to make it difficult for Mark Andrews this weekend, if anything. So I like Bateman a lot. And I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by how good he's looked over the first couple of weeks with Lamar in that connection. Because I think there was some question marks going into the season. Is he going to be, the number one undisputed? But he's looked really good. So I think that this is a fantastic matchup to fire up this bet going forward. Let's go to your last one here. Justin Fields on the under for completions, under 15.5 completions. I mean, ouch.
So let me ask you a question. How many times did the Bears throw the football on Monday Night Football?
How many times?
Yeah, I'm legit asking you, how many times did he throw the football on Monday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers?
I don't know, but my internet's being slow, so I can't look it up.
11.
11.
11. And they were trailing for a good amount of that football game.
That's
he
horrible.
Threw the ball 11 times.
That's so sad.
And then you also consider that against the San Francisco 49ers in a monsoon, he threw the ball 17 times. His completions are set over under at 15 and a half. No shot. No way in hell to me.
So sad.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not going to say that this is a gimme, but am I off on my analysis? Are the Bears going to throw the ball like 37 times and he's going to dink and dunk to 20 completions? No.
My face hurts from laughing. Oh my God.
I'm not trying to make you laugh. I'm trying to drive my point home, even though my voice is super high right now. God.
I'm crying. Oh God.
Hurts my soul.
I think it hurts anyone that drafted Justin Fields in their lineups. Just ouch.
The better completion mark should be 10. He hasn't completed 10 passes in a game yet. 7 and 8. He's got 15 on the season through 2 games, and you're telling me he's going to complete 15 and a half in one game? Sheesh.
Okay.
I'm not killing Justin Fields either. I think a lot of it has to do with the offense.
It does. No, I don't think.
How many passes has Darnell Mooney caught in 2022? Why don't you just go ahead and kick me in the stomach there too, sleeper? What's your over/under on his receptions? I hope he can. You know what? I'll take the under just so I'm wrong. If you set it at 2.5, and hopefully he catches 3 passes in week 3. Damn it!
That was a very beautiful rant. Very nice.
I'm sorry. The Chicago passing game is a joke. It's funny.
It is a joke, and I feel a little guilty laughing so hard that I'm gonna cause myself to have TMJ. This is pretty bad.
Boy.
But I left that bet. Feel really bad for anyone again that has drafted Fields going into the season. This is absolutely brutal. But this is against the Texans. Is there any glimmer of hope against the Texans, who are 1-1? Any hope?
Can we just go ahead and say, though, that the Houston Texans have played the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos, 2 teams that I think many thought would have at least an opportunity to make the playoffs, right? Most people thought that the Colts, not most, but a lot of people thought the Colts would be contending for the AFC South, and the Broncos are legit with Russell Wilson under center. Well, they should have beat the Colts if it wasn't for a 17-point fourth quarter collapse against them, and they held the Broncos at home at Mile High to fewer than 20 points. I'm just saying the Texans don't look quite as terrible as we all thought they might heading into the year.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm getting at is I think that this Bears-Texans game, I have no damn idea what to expect. I just really hope that they open things up for Justin Fields. I hope I'm wrong on this prediction, but if I'm betting money right now, yeah, Fields ain't completing 15 passes.
I love it. I can't wait to count each pass tomorrow and just have a clicker, 1, 2.
I feel like the entire city of Chicago is going to hate me for saying that, but or maybe they agree with me, right? Maybe they're like, yeah, listen to this man preach.
You never know.
Will, you know what? Tate sounding like Jim Mora. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know whether to think that's a compliment or not.
He threw you an LOL. I think this is a compliment.
Playoffs? That's what you're talking about? Yeah.
I love it. All right. We got this one from Will, and then we're going to go ahead and sign off for the night. Right. But go ahead and pick 3 for Will Jenkins. Non-PPR, McLaurin, Kirk, Myers, Shepard, Dortch, or Burks.
Oh, man. Is there anybody on your waiver wire you want to tell me about, too? I'm kidding, Will.
We have to pick 3. Pick 3. This is good for picking 3. I get it.
Okay. So if we're talking... I mean, Jacoby Myers is always one that's interesting to me. I think that you have to start Christian Kirk. Like, to me, Kirk's an easy start.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that Kyle Phillips for the Tennessee Titans is also doubtful. So I think that we're probably going to see more snaps and hopefully, fingers crossed, more targets. Because really, Treylon Burks has looked pretty good with his opportunities through the first couple of weeks. And personally, I'm not starting a damn New York Giants wide receiver right now unless I absolutely have to. You have another option named Terry McLaurin on your team. I will personally go with him over Jacoby Myers or even Greg Dortch for this matchup. I think that McLaurin, when you're talking about defenses that are, I think at least defenses that are a little bit more improved than we originally thought. I know the Lions have given up a lot of points through the first 2 weeks, but I mean, Jeff Okudah, I think he was drafted as a top 10 pick for a reason. And we saw a little bit of that last week against the Detroit Lions, who are, I think, a better team than a lot of folks thought heading into the 2022 NFL season.
Yeah, and I agree with your picks too, Will. I would also go with McLaurin, Kirk, and Burks just for the upside on Burks. And I think that you've got a much more steady floor in terms of targets and overall volume that you should expect for both Kirk and McLaurin. So thanks for that one, Will. Really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, guys.
Love you, buddy. We miss you, man. We miss you.
Love it. Thanks, guys, so much for tuning in. Please be sure to follow Derek on all forms of social media. He's at dtater4. I am Samantha R. Holt on Twitter and on Instagram at Sam_awesome. Guys, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please check out all the other content, seasonal and DFS tools, as well as premium access to our staff for all your fantasy sports questions in the members only Discord right here on drroto.com. Tate, any last words?
Yeah, I love you, Chicago. Good luck.
Good luck in week 3, guys. I hope you all get a win.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well